end. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around, we're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at him.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging. And to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
In P2, Brian Dees in P3, Travis Fleming in P4, James Watson in 5th, Joshua Rutherford in 6th, Brody Gunther in 7th, Dave Seats in 8th. For the teams, it's Team Watson Racing, TWR SJ Division, Work in Progress is in 3rd, MFRD is in 4th, Team Fastish in 5th, ESGI Motorsports in 6th, Limited Motorsports in 7th, and JK Racing rounding out the 8th. Like I said, we're at Barber Motorsports Park. We're in Birmingham, Alabama, the Deep South, that's for sure. Opened in 2003, the GP length circuit is 2.38 miles, and it's got 15 corners to its name. Now, Brian, how are you feeling about the drivers faring to this tricky racetrack tonight?
Especially in these Daytona Prototype cars that you see on screen at the moment, with the lack of driver aids to be able to wrangle the beasts underneath their right foot to keep the car balanced and under control and not spinning out over these elevation changes.
Absolutely. Barber is a very tricky circuit because it does have about 60 feet of elevation change throughout these 15 tricky corners. The track has received awards for its design and structure, combining a scenic natural setting with challenging curves. Of course, that leads to it being a motorcycle mecca. It is renowned for its motorcycle events and considered one of the best motorcycle racing circuits in the world even.
Yeah, definitely can see the appeal for the motorcycles. You know, it's a very, as you said, challenging and very rewarding track when you get it right. And so, because of that, it is definitely a favorite for a lot of drivers. I do not count myself in their company. But there's also a fantastic motorsports museum on the grounds of Barber Motorsports Park. If you're ever in the area, I highly recommend going to check it out. And it definitely delves into that motorcycle history as you talked about.
It does, and it's a lot of history here at Barber. Like I said, it was founded in 1975 here in Birmingham, Alabama, and it's had a lot of different origins. Barber made his fortune, and that's George W. Barber, a former race driver, businessman, and passionate motorsports collector. He made his fortune through the Barber Diaries, a major diary company in Alabama, actually. In the 60s, he raced Porsches and developed a lifelong passion for motorsports. In the 80s and 90s, he began building one of the largest motorcycle collections in the world. And he wanted more than a museum. He wanted a world-class motorsports destination where machines could be seen and heard in action. So the facility became built in 2002 on the massive 880-acre property outside Birmingham.
Yeah, and we would be remiss to not pay respects to George Barber, who passed away a couple weeks ago. As you said, was a longtime motorsports enthusiast, very passionate about racing, and you can see that in the course that he built. Just an absolute achievement of great proportions. Very rewarding to everything that he was very passionate about. So condolences to the Barber family, but we are very happy that we get to enjoy his hard work in the simulator that we all love.
Absolutely a legacy really left behind in the motorsports world, giving us the gift of not only the museum but the motor track for everybody to be able to enjoy. Just a couple of minutes left in the qualifying session, but I believe everybody should be done with their attempts. Travis Fleming leads us in the C7s in front of James Watson in the number 39, Christopher Hill in third, Brian Dees in fourth, Joshua Rutherford in fifth. For the GT3 category, it'll be Keon Maduro, Nidhi Kume, Cole Maxwell, and Ken S.
Yeah, kind of a small turnout tonight, unfortunately, as Barber always puts on a good show when it comes to racing. And maybe multi-class racing is not something that it is known for, but I suspect it will be very exciting to watch tonight. But I just want to call out one of our championship contenders in the Daytona Prototype class, Damian Dania, is not here tonight, so that leaves the door wide open for Christopher Hill to take a massive points lead going into the later half of this championship.
It's a very good point with the championship leader not being here. I was looking at the control room to see if we were going to get anybody to show us their cameras, and normally Dania is usually one of the drivers to do so. We don't have that fortune on this evening as things close out for the qualifying run. A couple drivers having some fun and gathering a couple of meatball flags, to say the least.
Yeah, easy to do here. Easy to play around and try and get as much air as you can off of some of these hills and crests. And probably the best place to do it outside of maybe Olton Park, since iRacing took away the Bathurst jump with the rework to gravel physics that they did a couple seasons back. So, yeah, as you said, drivers haven't set their qualifying times, just having a little bit fun at the end of the session there.
Yeah, and why not enjoy it while you can? It's certainly one way to get your spills and thrills. Stand by one moment, folks. Now, you talked a little bit about the history here at Barber. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about some of the facts that you know as well, Brian?
Car scheduled for many years, always produced fantastic racing for the Indy cars, and I believe it is on the calendar again this year, which is very exciting to see. Also a prominent fixture on what was formerly known as the Pirelli World Challenge, now currently the GT World Challenge America calendar as well, and that was host to touring cars, GT4 and GT3 machinery. So the prototype's a little bit out of place. I suspect with the downforce they're capable of producing, they're going to have a lot of fun out here. But these GT3 cars are definitely going to be at home here around the twists and turns and hills and dips that Barber can throw at them.
Definitely true. Now, like you said, it'll be the GT3s that feel at home, but the GTPs, however, might not feel so readily available. So let's take a quick look at the grid before we get rolling here. Travis Fleming leads us in front of James Watson alongside on row number 1. Row number 2, it'll be Christopher Hill and Brian Dees. In row number 3, it's gonna be Joshua Rutherford next to Keon Maduro, starting in the GT3 category. Then Nidik Kume in P7 with Cole Maxwell alongside him. In row number 5, Ken Esp and Corey Rutherford are in that back row. Row 6 belongs to Tommy Cook, and he's all by his lonesome.
Yeah, 11 cars will take the green flag tonight. So, as we said, kind of a disappointing turnout. We were hoping to see a lot of action around here. Definitely a lot of places to get a move done or set a move up for these cars, especially with multi-class. I will be very interested, given the differences in how the Daytona prototypes drive and make their lap time compared to the GT3 car, and that we don't do the split grid, or start, I should say, if we will see any of the GT3s potentially challenging some of the Daytona prototype back markers heading through the first few corners with the better braking, we'll say, on the GT3s available to them.
That would be very interesting to resolve between the drivers, that's for sure. If we have the GT3s catching up to the C7 Daytona prototypes that make up their speed a lot differently through the corners than do the GT3 cars. So we're sitting behind the official pace truck. The lights are out and we're ready to go green. Now, Brian, do you have any predictions for this race?
I'm expecting a little bit of chaos. As we've touched on, the corners kind of lend themselves that way. A lot of blind corners, and it's very easy to kind of lose your place on what corner you're coming up to, especially in the second half of the lap. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few spins, a few tangles, a couple of cars getting tripped up, especially as if the Daytona prototypes are quick enough to get around to start lapping the GT field. But with the small grid size, I do wonder if we will have any of that overlap towards the end of these races. But as we get ready to go to green, I suspect some of our answers will be coming very soon.
Travis Fleming leads us under the green flag conditions down in towards turn 1. This is where things get a little bit tricky as the pink machine mounts the curbs. It will be the TWS machine of James Watson now gaining the lead, but further back, Brian Dees and Christopher Hill are going to go wheel to wheel, toe to toe, coming in through the back straightaway now.
Yeah, these Daytona prototypes on the old tire model, they don't have cold tires to worry about, so they can get right to the business of attacking from the drop of the green flag. And you saw that between Christopher Hill and Brian Dees, with Christopher Hill coming out on top of that battle. And in GT3's Keanu Maduro, he's lost his top spot to the Ferrari of Nidik Kume. But I say that, he's going down the slalom course, showing why he should have been on the Olympic skiing squad there. Well held, good save from the 151 there, but he's going to lose a handful of positions from that maneuver. And Keon Maduro is saying, "Thank you very much, sir. I will resume heading back in P1."
Cole Maxwell, excuse me, now up 1. Corey Rutherford now up 2 positions for the Purple Haze working in progress machine. And there's more dirt and debris being kicked up in front of the drivers. Now, we don't have a caution, but it looks like the drivers are driving very slowly. No, they've picked up the pace back up. Okay, that was just my mind playing tricks on me. Here comes Travis Fleming on that charge for P1 with James Watkins out in front.
Yeah, Travis Fleming's going to run wide there, open the door wide open for Christopher Hill to come through, and our championship leader at the moment is setting his sights on the back of the 39 of James Watson. He's going to look to run him down, and as we said, with Dania not here tonight, Hill's going to look to maximize his points as best he can, and the best way to do that is to win these races. So he's dead focused on the 39 machine in front of him, running him down.
Absolutely. Here's Nidik Kume on that recovery drive. Has Cole Maxwell out in front by a healthy margin, but hopefully can run him down. The 151 goes through on the 69, and it looks like that dance was completed pretty easily there.
Yeah, Cole demonstrating what we were talking about, that it's just very easy to get offline and get out of sequence through these corners with the rise and the fall, the off camber corners that we have, as Travis Fleming is going to come out of the final corner and lose the back end and hit the inside wall.
Let's get a replay of what happened to Travis Fleming here, as we're definitely on the wrong camera. Oh, and just a lick of the grass and goes all the way into the pit wall. And that will do it for Travis Fleming's attempt at the lead. James Watson now inherits that position and continues to hold it in front of Christopher Hill with a 7/10 margin.
Yeah, that gap was over a second and a half last lap, but as you can see, Hill definitely has the pace in hand over Watson as he's taken a second out of that lead, and you can see it on your screen there. There's not much between them at the moment.
It's looking good for Hill, but what about Brian Dees lurking in the background, driving that number 17 as well? He's lurking and waiting, trying to charge forward. He doesn't seem to have the pace, though. He's the gatekeeper of the 119s. 119.2 that last time by was his best lap of the session.
Yeah, as they go around that time, Christopher Hill is definitely on full attack. He just set the new fastest lap of the race at a 117.9, and Dees behind him is running a 120.1. So Hill, fastest man on the track. I think that is clearly easily to see at the moment, but compared to the pace of James Watson, he's got about a half a second in hand that last lap, and as you can see, the interval's not really reflecting it. You'd think that that interval would have closed up a little bit more, so that tells me Watson's stronger in some of these sectors over Hill, but over the course of the lap, Hill definitely has the pace in hand over Watson in front.
A little bit of that car, the C7, bottoming out, coming through the chicane as Watson attacks the curbs aggressively now. It looks like a good run, but Christopher Hill loses out ground nearly 3/10 in the final sector. And it's not looking good. Let's hop over to the three-way battle in the GT3 category, because Nidik Kume is back in the mix with Corey Rutherford and Keon Maduro. And the battle for P1 is on between the drivers.
Yeah, definitely Corey Rutherford is putting the pressure on a long-time champion, anytime race winner in Keanu Maduro. Easily probably one of the strongest of the GT field. As you see, Rutherford completely misjudging that corner there, almost ran into the back of Maduro. That's certainly no way to try and get past the guy. But Maduro has previously kind of ran away in these races, but tonight he's definitely got his work cut out with two Ferraris and Rutherford and Kume behind him. As we see Kume looking to the inside, chooses wisely to back off, regathers himself, and plans his attack for a different sector of the track. But we'll see if Rutherford can regroup and close that gap back up to the rear of Maduro's Mustang.
It looked like a good look coming down in towards turn one, but it wasn't quite a secured maneuver, so Nidik Kume backed off there very boldly. Corey Rutherford up 3 positions overall tonight. now wants to secure those positions on the evening, but Nide Kume is very fast out here tonight. But is he a little bit too fast as Rutherford makes another mistake, and that opens the door for Kume to charge up and through. But will Rutherford be able to snap back through the chicane? No, I don't think so. It'll be position secured for Kume, and he'll be charging forward to get behind Keon Maduro again.
Yeah, Kume last time around was about a second faster than Maduro and Rutherford both. You see that translated into the ability to get that move done on Rutherford. But Rutherford's not done yet. As you saw, he wanted to mount a challenge back in response to Kume, but settling back about 0.7 of a second at the moment. Might be resetting his tires a little bit, keeping some life in them for end of the race perhaps, but could just be the pace of Kume coming out fully as he's looking to regain that P1 position he had back there at the beginning of this race.
Let's go back over to the battle between James Watson and Christopher Hill. This is a battle for P1 again, but in the C7 Daytona category. I keep on wanting to call them GTPs. Would I be wrong now, Brian?
No, they were, you could say they're grandfather GTPs, if you will. They were kind of the OG IMSA Daytona Prototype or GTP before what we have today is GTP. So I don't think it's wrong calling them GTPs.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the affirmation. We'll call them the C7s for now until I feel a little bit more comfortable. I dip my toes in the water just as Christopher Hill is dipping his toe into the water now, trying to get a good run here on James Watson. We're going to go door to door, blow for blow yet again, exchanging paint a little bit. The highlighter yellow and pink seen from space, and Christopher Hill can see it up ahead, and that's got to be frustrating to him.
Yeah, definitely Hill had to look going down into the hairpin there and almost had the move paid off, but Watson, having the better run out of the corner, has been able to extend the gap a little bit. And Hill's got to be a little bit frustrated there that he wasn't able to get that move done, but he knows that he can get to Watson, which is one half of the puzzle. You know, but as the saying goes, catching someone and passing them are two different things. And for Watson, he's shown that he can be tough to pass at times this season. And Barber, for all of its rewarding attributes and opportunities to pass, it is also equally hard to pass around here. But if you get offline, it is hard to commit to that offline and be able to make it work.
Just reminds me of VIR, where the margins are very slim for errors here. Almost like we're driving the roller coaster for the entire length of this circuit. The entire 2.3 miles that we're driving is just the entire roller coaster section at VIR. The elevation changes there, the undulations are just there, and here comes traffic here. And the driver was able to snake their way by. That should have been Ken Est that they were able to get by there.
Yeah, Ken Est doing the right thing, holding his line, staying out of everybody's way, but given the nature of the track, still made for a dicey encounter there. Certainly not something James or Christopher want to reenact anytime soon. But as you see, Watson pushing hard. He's dipping a couple tires off track there, doing everything he can to keep Christopher Hill at bay. As you see Hill close up in that final sector on the run down the front stretch, heading down into turn one. This downhill off-camber left-hander leading into a blind uphill right-hander. And roller coaster is a perfect description for this track. It really is like a fast roller coaster. Almost, I don't know if anybody's a roller coaster fan out there, but if you look at the new Fast and Furious one that's being built out in Universal LA, that kind of gives me the same sensation. Just real fast, real flowing, uphill, downhill. You might as well throw a loop-de-loop in here with the way this track is going.
Yeah, why not? A loop-de-loop to boot would make this absolutely complete for an entire roller coaster ride. With just under 9 minutes left to go, the cars bottom out through the chicane yet again and come down through 7A, and 7B with some ferocity, let's say. And they continue to challenge. Now Corey Rutherford also challenging as well, because he's in P3 for the category, but he's right behind Nide Kume and can challenge for P2 yet again. Let's take a look at that battle here in a second.
Yeah, Rutherford, as we saw, was trying to challenge Kume after Kume got past, and Rutherford kind of dropped back. We suspected to regather his tires underneath of him, and that seems to be paying dividends now as he's closed up to about 0.3 of a second going down through this tight, twisty downhill bit.
Now,
yeah, close to 0.2, 0.3 now. We'll see if Corey can set up a move coming into this lap here.
And Joshua Rutherford going door to door with Travis Fleming, and Fleming having that big off at the final corner and having a brief kiss with the pit wall there on a recovery drive. Now down 3 from where they started out in the lead of this event and trying to recover to gain any hollow points on the evening.
Yeah, as you said, having that unfortunate incident, just dropping the back right wheel into the grass coming out of the final corner, and having a little encounter with the pit wall for his troubles, making his way back through, looking at timing and scoring. He's running faster than Brian Dees by almost a full second, but 12 seconds is going to be a hard gap to recover with only 7 minutes left in the race. But with the invert coming, he might be relishing the opportunity to start back at the front of the field for the feature race and hope his results end up better than the sprint race have gone.
That's absolutely true. The race could go better for him in the second heat than it did in the first heat. We do have an alternating schedule here between the endurance format and the double heat format, as traffic giveth and traffic taketh away from the C7 prototypes as we come through the first sector. Now, this is where things get a little bit spicier. The final stage of this first heat now. I would say that the first half is now complete, and we're definitely in the second half. Well, the drivers can push a little bit harder knowing that they don't have to save tires, and they definitely don't have to worry about fuel to make it to the end anymore.
No, definitely not. These drivers know that they can push every second to the end without having anything interrupt their battle except for any sort of mistakes that they might have. But Christopher Hill not making any mistakes at the moment as he's closed right up on the back of Watson yet again. But as we've seen before, Watson just has the ability to get off of the exit of some of these corners and be able to stretch that gap out after it closes up under braking. So don't know if it's a setup difference between Watson and Hill. I don't recall if they run a fixed setup or not. I apologize, but could be a difference in setup or just a difference in the lines that Watson and Hill are taking, with Hill choosing to attack into the corner and Watson maybe backing that corner up to get a better exit. So definitely interesting to see the dynamic between these two racers in action as they fight with under 5 minutes to go now to see who comes out on top.
Speaking of fighting, Kume and Rutherford continue their brawl amongst themselves. The 151 and the 5 are allowing Keon Maduro to escape up the road. The gap now exists to be 2 seconds now as as Kume and Rutherford were going after it there for nearly half the lap.
Yeah, Rutherford last laps at his best lap of the race at a 122.4. As opposed to Kume, who was in the 123s. So that definitely allowed Rutherford to close the gap, as you see, and he is not left the back gearbox of the Ferrari in front of him since he caught Kume. I don't think he has any plans of letting go. He's going to be looking for an opportunity to try and stick his nose in somewhere. As we said, it's equally opportunistic passing, but also hard to complete a pass around here. So we'll see if Rutherford's been studying up his opponent and maybe found some chinks in the armor that he can exploit here in the last couple of laps.
Battle for the lead. James Watson almost got one done on him by Christopher Hill, but they're going to continue side by side. Is it actually done for Hill, though? No, it's not. Side by side through the chicane, and a little bit of door banging galore between the drivers, and Hill is through on Watson. Now it looks like Hill back challenging against Watson in the C7 Daytonas, and it'll be a spin for the highlighter car of James Watson, but he's able to recover and get it pointed in the right direction, and a little bit of guilt there felt from the 101 as he stopped and held his brakes as the highlighter mobile got it spun in the right direction yet again, and hopefully they'll be able to resume their battle in just a few moments.
Yeah, Hill doing the gentleman thing there and waiting for Watson to get himself collected and resume. Definitely don't want to see a battle ended that way, and that's exactly what Hill was thinking there. If there was any sort of wrongdoing or potential nefarious tactics, we'll say there, but didn't look like it. It looked like it was just hard racing on both parties. But either way, Hill said, nope, that's not how I want to win this thing. I want to fight it out to finish fair and square on the track. You carry on, good sir, and we will resume this battle in a lap or two once we get all gathered up and caught back together. As you see, going back through the downhill section here as Hill's closing back up under 3/10 again on the back of Watson.
And he might not get an extra lap or two as we're approaching the witching hour now. Will it be this lap plus one more, or will it just be this one more remaining lap? Time will decide from the C7s to determine if we will get that bonus lap. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Thank you very much for staying tuned. It's been a pleasure to take you from green to checkered flag. Make sure you stick around for heat number 2 coming up, as it looks like we will get the bonus lap, as Bonnie isn't waving the white flag just yet.
Yeah, with a minute 33 on the clock as they cross the line and doing minute 18 laps, I think we'll have 2 to go, so we'll have 2 more laps to see if Christopher Hill to get himself collected and back around James Watson for the sprint race victory. But either way, this is going to be a large points haul for him in the championship battle. I'm sure he's going to be very happy with it. But for James Watson, he's going to be looking to come away with a victory here and take maximum points away, but carry that into the invert for the second race we have here tonight.
Yes, it will pay dividends for the second race, as Rutherford and Nidikume are going to go battle between themselves yet again. And Rutherford is so good here. This might be one of his best performances that I've seen from him all season long so far. And then the 5 has a big look to the inside line, but slammed on the brakes as that door was diminishing in front of him. Nidikume wasn't too pleased about that overtake and just slammed the door shut. White flag is waving. Now James Watson and Christopher Hill will come across traffic for the last time on this lap, and it will be their last lap to try to get anything done.
Yeah, they're going to have the lap down car of Ken Estep there as they pass him for a second time in this race, and not far up the road they're going to have the BMW Cole Maxwell, who has fallen off of the... Oh, I apologize. That's actually the battle of Kume and Rutherford that they're coming up on. So 2 battles towards the end here going on simultaneously. We'll see if they catch them by the end of the lap or not, and what effect that has is both of these guys are not wanting to give an inch, and same could be said for our GT3 battle to see who comes out in second place. I was going to say before this that for all of the battling that Kume and Rutherford are doing, Maduro has not dropped those 2. He is not getting away from them, so they both have pace over Maduro that if they weren't battling makes me think either one of them could challenge Maduro for the overall win. But as it stands, you've got 2 battles going on, one for the overall win and one for second place in GT3 coming together here in the final few corners on the last lap.
Final lap, and drivers taking the checkered flag simultaneously. No, they don't, or do they? But James Watkins takes the win in front of Christopher Hill in P2. Now, do the GT3s get an extra lap or not? Rutherford has the checkered flag, but Kume and Maduro do not.
Yeah, Rutherford getting passed at the line there by Watson. Unfortunately, he won't be able to finish his duel out with Kume for one more lap, which frees Kume up to set his sights solely ahead of him on Maduro. That gap at 1.9 seconds going into the final lap. We'll see if he's able to close that interval. Just based on lap times, I don't think he'll get there, but with the challenge that is BARBER, anything can happen around here. So
anything can happen in motorsports, and it typically does, but not this time around for the 188 as we come through the bottom of the key for the final time for ASLR Sports Car Championship. It'll be Keon Maduro taking the victory tonight for the GT3 category, and Nide Kume is walking away with P2. Corey Rutherford in third, Cole Maxwell in fourth, Ken Estep in fifth, and Tommy Cook in sixth.
yeah, Maduro for his part took the lead after Kume had that off going through the chicane section of the track and never looked back, but at the same time couldn't really shake Kume and Rutherford behind him, but at the end had just enough distance to be able to do another lap and easily secure that victory in the sprint race tonight.
And Travis Fleming pulling out a very impressive recovery drive back up into third there. Hard charger being James Watson tonight, and most laps led going to him as well with those 16. As we get ready for heat number 2, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. It really helps out the analytics. Make sure you ring the bell for more Racers Nexus broadcasting as we have races every night of the week here on the channel. Now, Brian, any thoughts or reservations about heat number 1 tonight?
As we expected, there was some challenging moments for these drivers on this technical track as we saw Kume do his best slalom impression through the downhill chicane, which will open the door up for Maduro to be able to go into first place and eventually take the GT3 lead. But we did see that the DPs are able to catch the GT3s. As we saw that at the end of 20 minutes, you have to assume that they will definitely catch them throughout the 40-minute feature race here in a few minutes. But traffic didn't seem to be too much of an issue. I was a little bit surprised by that, but that might be a nature of just the small turnout we have tonight in both classes. So that may work in the faster class drivers' favor in this feature race coming up. And definitely seems that Maduro, who in the past, as I've said, has not been challenged in these GT3 races, definitely has a couple of contenders tonight, both in Ferraris, coincidentally. So I suspect the Ferrari really favors this windy and hilly track that we have here tonight at BARBER. And for Corey Rutherford, definitely the surprise of the night. Is very, very strong at the track. I suspect it might be one of his favorites and might have been his own personal addition to the calendar. I don't know if it's a home field advantage or not, but he certainly drove the wheels off of that Ferrari. And as you said earlier, easily probably his strongest performance of the season so far. So good momentum for him. We'll look to see if he can go one or two steps higher on the podium going into the feature race tonight.
Definitely looking forward to seeing what Corey Rutherford can do tonight, starting towards the front of the field this time around, or actually he'll start in the mid pack again with the rest of the field starting in P3, I think. But no, he really did put together a great performance. Now, I've wondered this because and I'm sorry to easily be distracted, but I saw this spider in the middle of Barber Motorsports Park, Brian. It's also in iRacing Arcade, because iRacing Arcade was just released a day ago today. And if you haven't got it, it's absolutely phenomenal. Arcade game. It's definitely not a simulator, let's say that. But tell me the story behind this bronze spider in the infield.
Yeah, it's certainly probably the focal point of the track, isn't it? Between that and the I forget the doll's name that hangs from the
That's
bridge on the
right.
back straightaway.
The one that fell down a few years ago, right?
Yes, in the IndyCar race. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. For some reason, Meredith sticks in my head, but I don't know if that's the actual name of it or not. But yeah, I don't know the story of the spider. I do know that George Barber had a fascination with really cool and off the wall sculptures and metal structures and that sort of thing. So that not only does the spider feature prominently, but also there are large sculptures of dragonflies throughout the motorsport campus as well. So I think it just speaks to the love that George Barber had of the area, his love for wildlife, as well as motorsports, and it was kind of a blending of both of those that led to the creation of Barber Motorsports Park as we know it today.
And we're all grateful for it. Yeah, I thought there might have been some lore behind it, because it reminds me very much of the Red Bull at the Red Bull ring. I know I said red and bull probably a million times in that one sentence, but it just reminds me of that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's kind of a very similar vein, but it actually does have a connection to the track, although I think the track named that section because of the spider. But turns 5 and 6, which go by the spider statue, are known as Charlotte's Web for obvious reasons. So it's definitely, you can't miss it. It's easily one of the most recognizable features of the track. When somebody says, "Hey, what's that track with the spider?" everybody knows that they're talking about Barber Motorsports Park. So just really cool feature, just such an oddity, but that's what makes this place really cool.
And like I said, to talk about iRacing Arcade a little bit, absolutely phenomenal to see that the spider made it in iRacing Arcade as well. Just like you said, exactly that. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's Barber. We're here. And I think a little bit of a mistake being made with the grid. As we look at the grid right now, it will be the GT3s in front, so we'll just go ahead and ignore that for now.
Yeah, they do the full field invert, which puts the GT3s in front of the DPs, but then they do a manual split and clear all the black flags and all that jazz. So
Makes
that's
sense.
why if you're watching at home and tuning in for the first time, it looks a little bit chaotic and doesn't jive with our starting grid and our timing and scoring. But that is how they do that, to add an element of challenge to this particular series. And unfortunately, iRacing, I can wax poetic about their lacking features on multi-class road racing on the service, but one of them that is lacking that would be useful in this league's case would be doing an invert of both classes. And unfortunately, if you were to do an invert of, say, the first 5 or 10, it would only be the Daytona prototypes, because those are the cars finished ahead. So when you want to invert of both classes, you have to, this is the only way that you can, and do a little bit of race control while you're also driving on your pace lap. If you're Corey Rutherford, who is our admin of the league and league owner, shout out to him for putting this on for us to broadcast for you guys and be able to have such great racing to watch tonight. And it's a good segue. If you're interested in joining in the fun that you see broadcasted to you, go to the description down below and you'll find a link to the league Discord, where you can sign up and get all the information you need to join him out on track in either of these lovely classes, the modern GT3 cars or the old school, the OG, the grandpa GTPs, as we established earlier tonight. And you can also get broadcasted here on Racers Nexus.
Absolute great opportunity for drivers to get inserted into an amazing racing league and a good community of drivers to go ahead and participate here. We still have half of the championship remaining, so don't feel shy about jumping in a little too late. It's still anybody's ball game to steal it away for the lead. Now we're getting ready to take the green flag. Joshua Rutherford next to Brian Dees, Travis Fleming, Christopher Hill, and James Watson, Cole Maxwell, Corey Rutherford, Keon Maduro, Nitakume, Ken S, and Tommy Cook. But it'll be Brian Dees and Joshua Rutherford in a little 3 wide going in towards turn 1, and it is absolute chaos, and the 69 tries to thread the needle, but to no avail.
There's the chaos that I was saying in race 1. It just waited to race 2 to show up. Is that the entirety? No, there was one Daytona Prototype that made it through that, if I am seeing this correctly. Holy crap, we're going to have to go back and look at the replay to see what happened there. It looked like everybody hit a patch of oil and slid off the track in turn 1.
Let's see if we can pull up a nice camera of this. So here's the crash from Brian D's point of view. So there goes Watson to the inside with a huge lockup. He spins out almost all on his own in the background, and then there's D's getting collected in that as well. Let's take another look at this from another camera as we go down in towards turn 1, because like you said, it's nearly collected the entire GTP field. Oh, and it's just, I'm speechless because it looks like all 3 of them lock up simultaneously there.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like to me. And then you've got James Watson with the sympathy spin to join in behind him. He was untouched, but also joined in the mayhem there. And yeah, shades of the IndyCar start at St. Petersburg this past weekend when Stingray Rob locked up and took out Santino Ferrucci and Mick Schumacher. Just made a mistake, and some bystanders were collected as a result of it, and that certainly could describe what we saw there. But Joshua Rutherford, he's saying, thanks guys, I will take my 7+ second lead and enjoy it for as long as I can. You guys can keep messing up if you want, as he's pulled away and is unchallenged at the moment, as the GTPs or Daytona Prototypes, however you want to call them, are getting untangled still from our GT3 cars.
Yeah, definitely a good, healthy lead to have, but for how long will it last? It'll be important to know if anybody has damage or not. Just taking quick peeks at the car. Like I said, it looked like James Watson had kind of spun all on his own in the background and wasn't involved in anybody else's incident. So he looks unscathed. Let's check out the suspension. Looks fine to me. Right rear looks okay as he kicks up a little bit of dirt. I'm not seeing anything, so if Watson can pick up the pace, he can close down that gap to Rutherford up ahead, right?
Yeah, I would think so. You know, we saw his pace that he had in race 1, and he doesn't have Christopher Hill breathing down his neck like he did in the last race. So definitely have to think that he can eventually run down Joshua Rutherford, but 7 seconds is a lot. That's a lot of gap to run down, but as we say that, you know, it's already down to 5 seconds. So you see Christopher Hill still trying to get his way out of GT3 traffic. So as you said, not sure who picked up damage there. We do know that the 69 Cole Maxwell collected somebody as he was trying to thread the needle between, I believe it was Brian Dees and possibly Christopher Hill, but looking at timing and scoring, none of our Daytona Prototype drivers have come into pits for damage, although Brian Dees, I believe, has towed. He's currently shown leading, but that is not accurate. That's just because he's theoretically in the pits and the pack has not caught him yet. But not sure what caused him to tow. potentially have to go back and look at a replay if he just called it quits or maybe had another incident. But Nidikume, he's got his elbows out, and our three main features from the first round of this are going right back at it. 3 wide into turn 1. Maduro, the smart one, he backs out of it, but the two Ferraris are not through with each other. They're wanting to resume right where things left off in our sprint race.
Beautiful 3 wide headed down into towards turn 1, and it resulted in no driver's loss of life there. Here goes Rutherford again with the lunge on the 151 of Nidikume, and this is the battle for the lead in the GT3 category. These guys are absolutely relentless, but Keanu Maduro now looks for a move on Corey Rutherford, but doesn't have the daylight just yet. Rutherford chases down Kume. Maduro chases down Rutherford. Now alternate lines taken through the chicane. Quick, fast, in a hurry. Who's going to be on top, Brian?
Yeah, as we said in race 1, the Ferraris definitely seem to have the pace around here tonight as we see Rutherford able to hold off the challenge from Maduro, who was able to close up from the battling that Kume and Rutherford were doing. Rutherford now sets his sights on the back of Kume in front of him, having dispatched with Maduro and sent him firmly back into P3 for the moment. But yeah, these guys are not letting each other get out of each other's sights. As we speculated in race 1, Kume and Rutherford were battling, and they were still able to be within a close distance to Maduro, who was the eventual race winner. But as I say that, Maduro, he has a spin back behind these two, and that's going to seal the deal for any sort of challenge to the two Ferraris, as now what was 3 is down to 2.
Dwindling down by the second. Nidikume is up for Rutherford, up 2 from where they started this event so far. But Rutherford, like I say time and time again, isn't really happy with P2 this time out. Knows he's got the pace to get around Nidikume. I believe he's going to show it tonight. Corey Rutherford might take his inaugural victory, and as I say that, gets the commentator's curse and makes a slight mistake with an exploratory excursion through some of the grass there.
Yeah, Kume coming off a 4th place in last round's feature race. Definitely faring better tonight so far through 2 races, and he's looking to come away with his first win in the series, and Corey Rutherford is doing his best to try and deny him that glory.
Trying as he might, but can he keep back Corey Rutherford, who's looking like a menace tonight? Like you said, it might be home track advantage. It might be a little bit of, oh my goodness, a little bit of a lunge is what it might be, as the Mullet Music Productions vehicle goes for a send on the 151, but immediately that position is taken back from Nidikume.
Yeah, Rutherford with the dive down and had the pass done temporarily, but Kume does the over-under as we see the spinning Ferrari there.
And Estep warps back the pit lane. That might be the conclusion of their event so far. Keon Maduro had that spill earlier on, is 7 seconds back from the battle for the lead here. Let's check out Christopher Hill on their recovery drive right now, because they've been catching up to Travis Fleming at a rate faster than not.
Yeah, Christopher Hill finally getting untangled from the GT traffic he was in earlier. He's going to look to the inside and send it down on the inside of Travis Fleming. That's going to move him back to P3. And Hill, having been involved in that lap 1, turn 1 incident, is in a manner of damage control at the moment. And Travis Fleming, he's just trying to have a good result after having that unfortunate contact with the pit wall in the sprint race earlier.
Definitely. And we talked about Rutherford being large and in charge of the race. Now Watson, though, challenges for the lead, only a half second back, but quickly diminishing that half second to just tenths between the two drivers. A battle for P1 in the C7 Daytona Prototype category. Now the run down towards turn one. The last 5 laps in a row have all been going Watson's way, time after time, gaining as much as a second and a half nearly on lap 5. On lap 8, can he do much better? It's always easy to catch, very difficult to pass the car in front, trying to occupy the same real estate as you to get those fast laps in time and time again. Big lockup there from Joshua Rutherford coming down the hill in through the chicane. But Watson can't quite opportunize on the mistake just yet. Now goes for a look on the 64, gets the move done and dusted completely, but not without compliance from Rutherford. James Watson now in the lead of the event, currently running in first for the TWR SJ division. Number 39 highlighter mobile. Like I always say, you can see this man from space. He's so bright.
Yeah, easily a very recognizable car. Makes it easy to see who it is that you're racing against each week. And Watson having run down Rutherford, who at one point had almost an 8-second lead after that schmozzle in turn 1. He's relinquished the lead to Watson, who has run him down and is now running away from Rutherford, as Watson's aiming to try and make it back-to-back wins tonight.
Say that one more time. Rutherford going for back-to-back wins tonight? Or Watson
No,
going
Watson.
for back-to-back? Yes, Watson going for the back-to-back win tonight. I knew I misheard that. Watson going for the back-to-back wins. Yes, he has been looking very good out here driving the C7s, and I wonder if it's just a little bit of the car coming to him as you get more time across a series. You just get a little bit more practice in, and then eventually something clicks, and things just have been trickling his way the past couple of heats.
Yeah, and for Watson all season, he's kind of been the best of the best of the rest behind Hill and Dania, and usually just sitting there waiting for either one of the other two to make a mistake. And on nights like tonight, where he just gets along really well with the track, he can show that he's got the pace to hold off somebody like Christopher Hill. And without being here to pose the second end of that challenge, he's quite enjoying his results at the moment. But yeah, James Watson, no slouch for sure. Don't mean to discredit him by saying that he's not fast in his own right, but definitely been the runner-up it's made too many times so far this season, so he's enjoying his moment in the spotlight with the chance to take back-to-back wins tonight.
Definitely, and a good haul of points on the evening as well. Getting both of those victories for Heat 1 and Heat 2 would work well for him in the championship standings. Now, let's walk through those standings right now. Currently, it'll be James Watson in P1 for the C7 Daytona Prototypes. Rutherford in second. That'll be Joshua Rutherford. And then Christopher Hill in third. Travis Fleming in fourth. Brian Dees in fifth in pit lane still. In the GT3s, it'll be Nidik Kume, followed by Keon Maduro, who somehow got by Corey Rutherford. Let's see if we can get a replay of what happened there.
Looked like he came in to make his pit stop.
That was just a regular pit stop, wasn't it?
Yes, with the feature race being 40 minutes, our drivers will have to make a pit stop, so Rutherford choosing to be the first of our challengers to visit pit lane, going for the undercut strategy. We'll see if that pays off with running in clean air, but So far, Cole Maxwell is the only other visitor to pit lane. I suspect that was for damage he picked up on that lap 1 incident. And Ken Estep and Brian Dees, but both of those cars are currently out of the running.
Unfortunately, out of the running for now. But let's see what Christopher Hill can do, because he's caught up to the rear wing of Joshua Rutherford, who's tumbling down like a stone now. The run down towards turn 1 has Christopher Hill looking to the inside line, but 710's back. It's just a little too unrealistic, and I think he knew that. Falls back in single file line for now, and through the carousel, it's all neat and tidy for the man in gold.
Yeah, Rutherford, having been run down by Watson earlier in the race, has now got his mirrors full of Christopher Hill behind him. Now it's Watson's turn to have almost a 7-second lead in front, as he's currently running unchallenged. But Rutherford, he's definitely wishing to go back and have the lead that he had at the start of this race, as Hill definitely is looking to have the faster pace at the moment. Running about a second to a second and a half lap faster than Rutherford, so you have to figure it was only a matter of time before Hill ended up catching him. But we say that he's pushing hard, as Hill almost loses the back end, bouncing over the curbs there. Very easy to do in that section. Coming to the end of the lap there, it's easy to get it wrong. Very blind set of corners, and well held by the 101 driver there to keep the machine under him still and be able to mount another challenge to the back of Joshua Rutherford.
Still staying glued to the rear end of Rutherford, but not the best time last time around. Definitely not indicative of his pace. Christopher Hill, 117.8 is his personal best, 119.9 that last time around. Kind of just matching Rutherford's pace out in front. And that's a struggle that I know I have when I'm sim racing, and struggle a lot of sim racers have, is when you get stuck behind another driver, you typically tend to match their pace and forget about your own lines and your own braking points, just trying to drive in avoidance, as the 64 completely avoids the chicane and will most likely have a slowdown penalty to boot.
Yeah, this should allow Christopher Hill to get by, as Rutherford has to slow down, a penalty for cutting the chicane there. Not serving it yet, though, so although it's not going to matter. That's one way to serve a slowdown penalty.
It sure is. Over to the battle for the lead in GT3's Keon Maduro and Nidekume now side by side. Maduro goes through on Nidekume. I thought Nidekume was going to try to retaliate right away, but it doesn't seem like he was able to do so. The 151 falls in behind Keon Maduro, driving the 188 Ford Mustang. Nidekume's best lap being a 122.8. Keon Maduro unleashes the beast with a 121.7. Nearly a second faster than Nidekume. I definitely think Keon Maduro was just playing with his food a little bit at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, that's what he speculated, getting Kume or Rutherford solo to go ahead and challenge Maduro. Definitely showing that they have the pace to do so, as Kume slowly is winding in the 188 Mustang of Maduro in front of him. Pit stops are going to be coming up for our drivers, so we'll have to see who wants to go for the undercut and who wants to stay out and go for the overcut. Rutherford behind, 27 seconds back, has already pit, so he's just waiting for both of these cars in front to come in and see where everything shakes out after all the pit stops are completed.
Now, Corey Rutherford was 43 seconds down the lane and a pit time of 10.6 seconds. Does that mean that he'll inherit the lead when Keon Maduro and Nidek Kume come in, assuming they take the same service?
Well, that depends on how quickly...
Is my math mathing me right now?
Yeah, I don't know what the total time down pit lane is. Rutherford's pit stop in the box is only 10.6 seconds, so assuming the gate-to-gate time is less than 28 seconds, then presumably Rutherford should inherit the lead of GT3 once Maduro and Kume both come into pit.
Very, very interesting. Rutherford making this undercut strategy work out in his favor, potentially pitting out from being in the way of traffic or being traffic himself. Now, has that 28-second gap to Nidek Kume out in front, and is it closing? Well, right now, Corey Rutherford is closing down the gap. 122.3 that last lap around compared to a 123.15 from Kume. So Rutherford on lap 10 when he came down pit road lost about 19 seconds to the leaders. Now he has a 26-second gap.
Yeah, Rutherford is definitely closing in with these guys as they've been lapping. So each second that he takes out of them on track is going to help his positioning when they come in for the pits, as right now, assuming a 10-second pit stop for both of them in the box stationary, that only allows for 16 seconds for them to get down pit road into the box and back out onto the track. And Rutherford's going to have a full head of steam with hot tires, as even if Maduro and Kume don't do a tire change, their tires will cool down a few degrees and take a couple of corners to come back up to temperature and pressure, which is going to favor Rutherford.
Hadn't even considered that advantage going Rutherford's way also. So now Rutherford with 18:10 remaining left to go. All he has to do is put the pedal to the metal and focus forward. Now Keon Maduro unleashes his charge and puts down a 122.73 that last time around. He's still the fastest of the trio. Pit stops now for Maduro and Kume. Now, where is Corey Rutherford going to come out in relation to the rest of the drivers? This is the battle we've been waiting for. Let's keep an eye on Maduro and Kume as Rutherford goes around the track now in the number 5. Now,
Yeah, Rutherford coming around the last couple of corners. Let's see how Kume and Maduro shake out here. They're both showing in pit lane. Rutherford's going to take the lead as they're both still stationary.
and they're both on the way out. Nidek Kume having to come in sideways to get his service actually. And Corey Rutherford has inherited the lead of the GT3 category in front of Nidek Kume, who's now in front of Keon Maduro. And there's the pit time.
As you see, Rutherford 2 seconds shorter pit stop than Kume and a whopping 7 seconds shorter than Maduro. Although that's not reflected in the gap on the track between Kume and Maduro. Those two are neck and neck coming out of the pits, although the positions are swapped from how they entered the pits, so favor Kume on that one. But Rutherford, assuming that 10-second pit stop gave him enough fuel to make it to the end, performed a flawless pit stop in an undercut to massively in front of both Maduro and Kume to the tune of 8 seconds at the moment.
15 minutes remaining on the clock. That means we'll just about get 13 or so laps, if I'm not mistaken. Now, can Keon Maduro basically be half a second faster every single lap than Corey Rutherford to get back in the lead? Now that's the math I want to know at the end of the race. Pit stops coming in for Christopher Hill, but James Watson ends up staying out. And I wonder if he's got a little bit extra fuel in the tank to make it this extra stint, or if he's going to run out. No, he comes down pit road immediately. And I was just curious about that fuel line of his.
Yeah, Watson, last of our runners to make a pit stop in either class, it would appear. Fleming had a 10-second pit stop. Hill had a 9-second pit stop, so we'll see how that compares to Watson's stop as he pulls into his box now. I don't see the car going up in the air, so this will be a fuel-only stop. And he is away, and no sign of Fleming or Hill behind him. And second pit stop for Watson in the box.
And
Fleming's just now coming through the final corner.
And Fleming with an amazing recovery drive involved, obviously, in that lap 1, turn 1 incident. But able to recover back up into P2 for the category. Not too shabby. Neither is Christopher Hill or Joshua Rutherford in P3 and in P4.
Fleming with a lockup going into the pin section there, but doesn't look like that did any damage to the 2.3 second gap that he's got to Hill behind him. 21 seconds currently your margin between Watson and Fleming after pit stops were completed. Well executed stint there by Watson, both on pace on track and pace in the pit box. Corey Rutherford, we see, has a black flag.
Oh no. Oh no.
Not sure what he got that for, if it is incidents or a potential speeding and pit lane penalty.
What could have been the perfect result for Corey Rutherford now carries a black flag. Hopefully that does not impact his results, as we all know it probably will. We'll call these results provisional for now until they're not. But for now, Corey Rutherford leads the GT3 category in front of Keon Maduro by 5 and a bit seconds. That gap is coming down slowly but surely. It was a second the last time around between Rutherford and Maduro. Christopher Hill all glued over the rear wing of Travis Fleming, though. Battle is brewing up. It has been for some time. Lap times going the way of Christopher Hill over Travis Fleming. Corey Rutherford comes down pit lane to serve that penalty and will surely lose the lead. And there goes Hill on Fleming. The inside line, the fleck to the outside line. Works it well, and like I said, Fleming having to just be complicit in that overtake. And there goes down Corey Rutherford right now, down pit lane, taking a drive-through penalty. That's probably going to be incident point related, unfortunately, if he took that on the chin like that. Otherwise, I assume he would have been able to remove the penalty post-race, but if it's something he was guilty of, I'm sure he'd be honest about it.
Yeah, and given that it was a drive-through and not a stop-and-hold penalty, I suspect it is also incident count-related and not a speeding and pit lane penalty. But as you saw Travis Fleming have that lockup going into the corner, which opened the door for Christopher Hill to slip by heading into the final couple corners. That allowed him to pull in front into P2, but Fleming is fighting back as he's currently about 8 or 9 tenths back of Hill. Rutherford, though, with the penalty, he's only about 2.5 seconds, a little over 2.5 seconds back from Kume. So if he can turn in a couple blistering laps here, he can be right back in the battle to potentially sneak a P2 by the end of this race with 10 minutes left to go.
That's true. He does have the pace over Kume right now, but he's going to have to be consistent about it as well. Corey Rutherford running in third, Cole Maxwell in fourth, now coming out of pit lane for his second stop of the night. James Watson leads the Daytona Prototypes in front of Christopher Hill and Travis Fleming. Joshua Rutherford, who once led us by 7 seconds, is at the back of the pack in P4 now.
Yeah, Rutherford just having the overall pace of Watson, Hill, and Fleming tonight, but he could enjoy leading for at least a few laps at the beginning of the feature race here tonight. But right now it is that neon paint-equipped number 39 of James Watson that has a commanding 22-second lead over Christopher Hill, who has been able to pull away from Travis Fleming after Fleming made that mistake with the lockup in the right front and opening up the door for Hill to go by.
Pretty easy maneuvers to make at a very technical racetrack for the drivers to have to negotiate with the lap traffic that we've seen, but we haven't seen very many incidents due to traffic other than that lap 1, turn 1 incident. That really wasn't due to traffic anyways. That was just due to driver input error, let's say, as Rutherford and Nidek Kume settle this debate. I know you said that it was going to be a few laps, but it didn't quite take that long as Nidek Kume went off track. And when it came back on, Rutherford was there ready to pounce.
Yeah, absolutely. That was all it took, was one small mistake from Kume, and Rutherford, thank you very much. I will at least take my second race back. But while that has happened between the penalty for Rutherford and the mistake from Kume, that's allowed Maduro to scatter off to an 8-second lead in GT3s, and he's saying, well, this is a familiar sight, leading GT3s with not much in the way of competition behind him.
Not traffic behind him for now, but it could be closing down as Rutherford continues to put down fast lap after fast lap. 122.9 the last time around, about a second faster than Keon Maduro. 123.8 for him that last time around. Now again, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for staying tuned. It's a pleasure to be your host. I'm Sagar Bakshi, and joining me in the broadcast booth is going to be Brian Zinn. Thank you very much for joining us. The cameras are brought to you by TrackCams22.com for all of your track camera needs. Make sure you check out TrackCams22.com. Christopher Hill unleashes the pace. 117.6 that last time around. Now broaches into the 118.2s but James Watson only able to cruise a 1:18.8. That gap is coming down, but is it coming down quick enough? A 19-second gap that might be insurmountable for the Daytona prototypes, barring any mistake. Now, Keon Maduro into the 1:22.9s, while Rutherford throws down a 1:23.4 that last time around.
Yeah, that gap between Watson and Hill was over 22 seconds, but as you say, now it's down to 19 or 18 seconds, depending on where they are on the track. So, will it be insurmountable with 5 minutes to go? I think it might be, for fear of implementing commentators' curse, but as we've seen, mistakes can happen. Have to look no further than what happened with Nidikume and his battle with Corey Rutherford, who has stretched that lead out to about a second, but both of them have fallen another second or two back from Maduro, who's currently leading GT3 once again. Joshua Rutherford, he had picked up a black flag and has since come to the pits to serve that. I suspect that is also incident related, as it was for Corey Rutherford earlier in the race. But with 4 minutes to go left in this one, what are your takeaways from this feature race?
So far, it's been the rise and fall of Mr. Corey Rutherford. He has driven us to P1 at the halfway point of this race, had the unfortunate drive-through, and came down pit road, and then fell back down to P3. He climbs back into the ranks of P2, but an 8.5 second deficit is the meaning between his best result and another standard P2.
Yeah, looking at the provisional points with how things stand, James Watson likely to move up another spot and claim P4 solely for himself. He might be able to jump Brian Dees as well. He's only 19 points back coming into tonight's 2 races, and with 2 fantastic results from Watson, I suspect he might find himself in P3 in the championship standings. And in GT3, well, Keanu Maduro's led this thing from the green flag in round 1 and hasn't relinquished the lead, but for Corey Rutherford with 2 solid races, he might find himself leaping up into second place in the championship, which, given his pace over the last couple of weeks, I suspect he's going to be very happy with the momentum that he's been able to build in the championship and look to carry it through into the next several rounds that we have to round this thing out.
For sure, that's a very good look for him. It's looking very promising for Rutherford with the momentum that they've been able to build over the last couple of weeks, time and time again. It's not easy to be able to secure pace or to be able to improve, especially when you plateau after a certain point in sim racing. So, Corey Rutherford being able to find that pace and that improvement is on for a good one, honestly, and I'm honestly very proud of him to be able to do that, because sometimes in sim racing you just feel like you're beat your head against a wall trying to gain any bit of momentum or any bit of pace, and sometimes it's just not achievable after hours behind the wheel.
With 2 minutes to go in the race, I think James Watson, that gap has come down another several seconds from Christopher Hill. I suspect Watson is in a cruise sort of manner at the moment, not wanting to make any big mistakes that would lose large chunks of time. But for Hill, he's pushing hard. He's not giving up in any way, shape, or form until that checker flag flies, in the hope that Watson does have a mistake, he can be able to pounce on it as much as he possibly can, as he is absolutely dropped Fleming behind him. What was a 1 or 2 second gap is now over 12 seconds between P2 and P3 in the Daytona Prototype class. And for Rutherford, who had gotten around Kume after Kume had that mistake, Kume is starting to mount a challenge back against Rutherford as we close in on the last couple of laps in this one, although with a minute 10, I suspect by the time they come around, they will get the white flag.
I believe so. And Watson coming around now through the first sector should have already gotten the white flag. Is that correct, Brian? Or will be receiving the white flag?
I did not see what the time was left when Watson crossed the line, so it could be either or. It was very close on whether or not it was going to be white flag. Watson's last time around was a 1:19.6, so he has definitely backed off of the pace that he had earlier in the race. So this could be very well white flag lap with only 22 seconds to go as he's coming up to the final few corners. I think this is the white flag lap.
Yes. White flag lap this time around with just 10 seconds left to go. James Watson coming home with the win for TWR SJ Division with a commanding 11-second lead after the big spill and thrill that we had coming in through turn one. Most of the drivers were able to recover. Good win for James Watson. Christopher Hill will bring home second for the Daytona Prototypes. Travis Fleming in third with Joshua Rutherford in fourth.
And Keanu Maduro going through the downhill chicane section on his final lap as well. He's got 10.6 seconds in hand over Corey Rutherford, who has maintained that gap to his fellow Ferrari stablemate and Nidikume behind him. Coming through the final few corners now is Maduro, looking to secure yet another win on the season.
Keanu Maduro has been an unstoppable force this championship, and even at the track he didn't look comfortable at, he was still able to come out on top tonight. Corey Rutherford will be positive about his results tonight, taking home P2 and Nidikume in third, Cole Maxwell in fourth, Ken S in fifth, Brian Dees in fifth, Tommy Cook in sixth. Let's take a look at the results from the feature race now. James Watson will take the win in front of Christopher Hill, Travis Fleming, and then we'll have Joshua Rutherford, Keanu Maduro in the GT3s, Corey Rutherford, Nidikume, Cole Maxwell, Ken S, Brian Dees, and then Tommy Cook. See if we have a copy from James Watson. We'll see if we can talk to the driver who took the win. And we do have James Watson. Let's go ahead and grab him. James Watson, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing pretty good. A lot better after that.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably didn't think the race was going to go your way after your spin at turn one, but it probably wasn't the worst thing for you now, was it?
No, actually, because I forgot to look at the replay. If you guys can actually rewind it a little bit, I'd love to see what actually happened, because I knew that at the moment I got on the brakes, it like instantly swapped ends, and I'm just looking in my mirror, at the very least, just hoping I don't back into Chris. And then I saw Chris turned around, I'm like, oh no, and then I saw more cars turned around, I'm like, I don't think that was all for me.
You know, it was kind of funny analyzing the replay ourselves. We were thinking the same thing, but looking at your car, it looks like you were self-inflicted with that lockup and really spun out behind everybody else as we take a look at you just narrowly missing
Oh
Christopher
my
Hill there
God.
by just a RCH there, to say the least. And then the 69 tries to part the seas, but gets collected by Brian Dees' front nose there, unfortunately. But like I said, it might have been the best thing to happen to you because you avoided the contacts that happened in front.
Yeah, because like it was funny because I heard Travis apologizing for it, and Chris in our voice chat was talking about how he outbraked himself and apologized for hitting Brian. So all three of us had our own screw up in that corner, all at the same time with differing results.
Correct. Yes.
That is absolutely wild.
All making just about the same mistake, all at the same time in synchronization. Yes.
And that really highlights how difficult this car is to drive. These brakes are ridiculously touchy, especially on cold tires. No matter how much you try to warm up the tires, warm up the car, it just doesn't seem to always be enough in that opening lap. And I think that's the second time I've done something like that too, on lap one in the future, trying to make an interesting move. So yeah, I'm just absolutely, and like I was perfectly content because I'm like, okay, I won the first race, my life is complete. Because I figured Chris was gonna be able to just walk away from me with the extra time and being able uh to use the pit stop to try to get ahead of me, even if I was able to keep the lead through the opening laps. And then when all that happened, I'm like, am I actually gonna sweep this?
Yeah. It ended up working out well for you, Watson. Now, is there anybody that you want to shout out or anybody that you'd like to thank tonight before I let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta thank Chris. Chris Hill is he's the class of the field in this series and one of our best drivers in this team, which is saying something. And having a teammate like Chris who teaches you a lot, helps you a lot, and also, he's that mark for me to strive to be better. Like I'm practicing more than I would have a couple years ago and practicing harder, just trying to get that speed to actually be able to compete with him. Iron sharpens iron. And so you're always working as hard as you can to keep getting better and better to be able to get to a level that Chris is at. And it's just awesome having him a part of this team and having him a part of this team for as long as we have. I also got to thank everyone at Team Watson Racing Setups. Use code WATSPIN39 for 10% off at checkout. National Racing Network, ZAS Designs, and Dizzy V Designs for putting together my paint schemes. Victor Aldridge, owner of Dizzy V Designs, Icon Sim Racing Apparel, Track Racer, and Inside Lane Productions, and my folks for watching at home.
Thank you very much, James Watson, for joining us in the booth and as well as the race. We'll talk to you later, brother. Take care.
Yes, sir. And I get 2 ASRL win stickers again. Let's go, baby.
Congratulations, my friend. Take care.
Cheers.
Let's talk to in order then. We'll go from the bottom to the top. Let's bring in Nidik Kume next. Nidik Kume coming home in third position there in the results. Now, you had a roller coaster of a Heat 1 and a roller coaster in Heat 2 as well. How do you feel about your results?
Feel great. It was a really, really nice race. I enjoyed it. Battling with Corey all through. It was I'm drenched in sweat right now. It was great. I enjoyed it. It was totally awesome.
And you even had a great battle early on with Keon Maduro, as we're taking a look at right now. That must have felt pretty good to be in control of the race, as it didn't quite go your way for heat number 1.
Yeah, that I know Keon is really fast, so I was a bit under pressure to see him, right behind. But I tried to hold it down for as long as I could. But I knew eventually he'd come by, and I wouldn't fight it too hard. So I did what I could for the time being. It was fun.
It looked like a fun battle out there for sure. Now, any highlights from this race, or anybody you want to shout out or thank?
Well, I'll shout out Corey because we had a really tough 2 races. Me and him, we were battling all through. So, shout out to Corey.
Right on. Thank you very much, Nidikume, for joining us in the race and in the broadcast booth. Have a great night, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Have a great night, guys.
I'll let you take the questions with Corey Rutherford, Brian.
Yeah, Corey, what a action-packed night for you, battling with Nidikume and Keanu Maduro for both races. But walk us through what your perspective was of that lap 1 Shamazel in the feature race.
That just looked like somebody put oil slick on the track. Is kind of what it looked like. Look how many people just blew right through the corner. And I thought I was going to be clear of it, but nope.
Yeah, it almost looks like some of those AI racing clips that people will post from iRacing AI that just forget where a turn is there. But
yeah,
overall, you had a great battle with Kume all night, your fellow Ferrari stablemate. But in the end, looks like you picked up a black flag. We were speculating for incident points, but was that
Yep.
so ultimately dropped you out of the lead, but still a good points haul for you in the championship. What's your focus going to be for the rest of the season moving forward?
Yeah, I'm actually having fun on the season. Running with Kume there, that was a load of fun. Running, but even behind him that first race, trying to find a way around. He was doing a great job running wide, and then that second race, trying to hold him off as much as I could. That was a lot of fun, and that's kind of just how I'm gonna take the rest of the season. Just keep enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it at the moment, so let's just keep doing that and let the results come as they may.
Yeah, we were talking up in the booth that it was definitely probably one of your strongest showings all night. It seemed like you just gelled really well with Barber. And even when you were battling with Kume, you guys weren't losing the back of Maduro, which, as you know, is a very hard thing to do, is to stick with Kume, in a GT3 car around here. So kudos to you both on being able to battle and stay in his view as well. So um, before we let you go for the night, any folks you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I gotta thank the league sponsor, Purple Haze Autosport, for um, all they do to try to support the league week in, week out. Thank my family, my dad, my mom, my brothers, and all of their continued support in this, game that we play. And then thank all the drivers that show up week in, week out. And then, of course, thank you guys in the booth for broadcasting us every week.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure getting to broadcast such a great group of racers, and we will let you go, and excited to see how you do next week.
Appreciate it, fellas.
And now we have Keon Maduro up in the booth next. And Keon, we didn't think the race was going to technically go your way after the challenges that you had to face, but you're able to climb out on top. How'd you do it?
You talking about that spin in the second race, the second heat?
Sure.
Yeah, like I don't even know how I came. I think I just got lucky. I know I was faster. Well, once that spin happened, I locked in and I tried to stay focused and I tried to because I know I'm used to running times of 120 to 121, and then when that happened, I just had to lock in, and I was consistently trying to run 21s, but I think it's that's what helped me get up out of that that little incident. And but also Corey too, he made a few mistakes, and he had a drive-through penalty in the few last the few last section of the track, and I guess I got lucky, like I said.
Yeah, but the luck, unfortunately, didn't go Corey Rutherford's way. It settled and did go your way with that penalty. Now, because the track wasn't there for you tonight, did you feel like P1 wasn't really on the cards for you, or did you still feel like you were going to get the victory no matter what?
I feel like it was gonna be a close one because I was running. I like this track, but they had the better cars for this track. The Mustang on the stairs a lot. It doesn't like to turn, and I knew it was gonna be a hard race. I still think I could have pulled out the P1 if he didn't have the penalty, but I knew it was gonna be a difficult chase down after that happened. Yeah.
For sure. Keon, now, anybody you want to shout out or anybody you want to thank tonight?
I want to thank you guys for always showing up and broadcasting, family, friends, and my wife. Also Corey and the guys that showed up tonight for this race.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, brother. Have a great night and stay safe out there.
You too. Have a good one as well.
Now, that's going to slowly wrap things up for us here from the Racers Nexus broadcast channel, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Let's take a look at the race info. We were just at Barber Motorsports Park, 2.27 miles. And this was American Sim Racers League. If you would like your league broadcasted, please contact us to discuss availability. I've been Sagar Bakshi, and joining me in the booth has been Brian Zinn. Have a great night, and as always, make sure you stay safe out there. Bye-bye for now.